What do you do when you get a really bad condition coin? So milk spotting is definitely something we know a lot about. The Royal Mint are one of the worst in the world right now for their quality and milk spotting. But rather than bash the Royal Mint in this video, I want to talk about what we can do as consumers to best protect ourselves and resolve situations where maybe you've got a coin in and it's really, really bad. So let's dive in and have a good old precious metal ramble. Hello everybody, Backyard Bullion here, and a very warm welcome to you all joining me for another precious metal ramble. Now, when buying gold and silver online, you want to make sure that you are best protected and you're getting the actual coins that you're paying for. And in the United Kingdom, to quote a famous phrase by Saul Goodman in Breaking Bad, you have rights. Consumer rights. Most countries will have some form or another of them to make sure that people get what they've actually paid for. But not a lot of people know that, unfortunately, when it comes to bullion or other products that are based on fluctuations of market prices, that those consumer rights are not applicable. Certainly not in the same extent anyway. You have rights to make sure that you take delivery of those items, but unfortunately, the right of replacement and return, you do not have them. So if you bought this coin with these ghastly milk spots on them, it's a well-known problem from the Royal Mint. And this video is not meant as a Royal Mint bashing video. I've done that enough over the last couple of months. Instead, I want to at least talk about what we can do as consumers to look into this and protect ourselves a bit better, maybe make some purchase decisions beforehand. And if we do get milky coins like this, how do we handle the situation? What do we do? Because ultimately, unfortunately, the vast majority of these coins are misused. I was going to say misused. They have milk spots and issues is what I was trying to say. My brain amalgamated them together. There are misuse on these coins, and unfortunately it is not always the fault of the dealers. It's what they have to work with from our old favourite, the Royal Mint. So what can we do as consumers to help protect ourselves and sort out these kind of situations if they arise? I'm not here to give formal legal advice or anything like that, certainly not consumer advice. And if you are looking for some consumer advice, then it's well worth checking out the consumer advice service here in the United Kingdom. And I'm sure there are others in different countries around the world. Now, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section if you've had similar experiences talking with dealers about these kind of things and situations. It'd be great to hear what you've got to say. So, first up, silver milk spotting. A lot of you may be looking at this and thinking, well, what are milk spots? Very brief summary. Basically, the dies, so when you make a silver coin, you have a what's called blank, so it will just be completely blank, 1 ounce silver round like this. And the manufacturer of those dies, which by the way is not the Royal Mint. The Royal Mint don't melt down their own silver and make them into their own dies. They just buy them in from a third party. Don't know who that third party is, but that's what they do. And that third party seemingly will clean the silver dies that they make with some form of chemical. And that chemical leaves residue on these coins. And when they are stamped and made, we then end up at some point, some coins, it's not on all, but on some coins, you get these kind of marks and issues develop over time, these milk spots. There's a little one occurring over here on that side. These other marks here is just really poor Royal Mint quality control. And having seen the quality control or the production line, I can talk a bit more on that near the end of the video. We'll save the rant and ramble to the end. But it's a well-known problem, and the Royal Mint are theoretically addressing it. You can see all of that on there. It's awful. Theoretically, they're addressing it, but whether or not they'll actually solve it, I don't know. But if you get some, it's bitterly disappointing, first of all. So the first thing that I could say to you is don't buy Britannias. This is one of the obvious things. Britannias are notorious for these kind of issues in milk spotting at the moment. Yes, there are good batches, and I've had good batches. I've also had really bad batches. It's a bit of a potluck situation, really, quite frankly. And if you're buying brand new, you are gonna have a potluck situation, because often when you are buying brand new from, say, a dealer, why you would want to, I don't know, because you'd be paying way over the odds with ridiculous prices. But let's say you do, it's gonna be a lottery. They'll just get a giant monster box from the Royal Mint. They won't even open them to look at the coins. They'll literally just pick out a monster box. They'll pick out a tube from the box, or if they are sending smaller quantities, they'll take those coins out, put them in flips, and off they go. They don't have the time to look through thousands of coins and pick out all of the dross and just send them back to the Royal Mint. They don't, and it's not their responsibility or problem, quite frankly, as well. So I'm kind of on the side of the dealers. Oh, look at that. That is awful. That's one of the worst ones I've seen. You have to get the light quite right at the moment to see it. So anyway, yeah, the dealers don't really share the blame for this, but they do stand by their rights as sellers for this situation. So this is where we get into the kind of consumer rights element of it. Now, for distance selling regulations, that is not something that you have the right of return for or replacement when something is as bad as this. Now, arguably, if you got it and it was proven to be a fake coin, then yeah, you've got some extra consumer rights. You have the right to get what you've paid for, which is essentially a 1 ounce silver coin. The condition of it, unless it's incredibly bad and it's like really kind of completely ruined the coin, I use like a giant gash through the middle of it and it's completely unrecognizable as a coin, or it's just simply just so bad. Even then, the companies, the dealers don't necessarily have the responsibility to replace that and change that. And it's very much down to their discretion whether they will. Now, I know some big dealers out there, if you just bought one coin for a special occasion, you wanted to give this as a christening present, say to somebody, silver is a very common thing to give at christenings, and you got this from a dealer, you could plead your case to them, and some dealers will look to help remedy that. It's in their interest to do so if you're a good customer, and it shows that they're good, and I know there are some dealers that do that. But en masse, don't expect dealers to be doing that. If you do get something like this and you're really quite bitterly disappointed about it, you can ask them, do so respectfully and privately, and just, don't blast them all over social media here and blame them willy-nilly. The blame needs to really be put at the feet of the Royal Mint, because they're the ones that make these coins and have the issues on them ultimately. Unfortunately, the dealers are just the ones that pass along the buck in a way. Now, what you could do is avoid Britannias altogether, but there are plenty of other mints out there that still have milk spotting issues. I've seen plenty of different coins with milk spots over my tenure here on YouTube. There are some mints that have solved the problem, like the Canadian mint, that have this mint shield technology, and quite frankly, their maples now are just so stunning and beautiful, and they look great. I just wish that the Royal Mint would actually acknowledge that that is a thing that has been solved. When I met the people at the Royal Mint and saw their production line and asked them about milk spotting, they basically said that the Canadian solution was a bit of a gimmick. It's basically just convincing you all that the problem has been solved. But I'm like, but the problem has been solved. They said, no, it hasn't. But literally, it was like trying to get blood from a stone. It was absolutely ridiculous. But they have acknowledged in a live stream a few months ago that there is definitely an issue that they need to address and resolve, and hopefully at some point that will be addressed and resolved. But until that happens, we can just ignore Britannias, quite frankly, and new Britannias. So what I would suggest is, if you do want to get Britannias and you don't want to run the risk of getting really crappy ones like this, then you need to sort of look at what you're buying before you buy, which means you have to go to the secondhand market. Now, I see silver coins being sold on the Silver Forum and various other platforms every day. And often the really good sellers anyway will be quite frank and open about them. And these coins that I've got here on this table, they're all for sale, and they will probably have all gone by the time this video's gone live. But I will be very frank about it and go, look, it's a Milky Britannia. It's going to be cheaper than a normal Britannia with a decent quality, because it's really bad when you look to sell it. Only people who buy cheap, low to the ground silver don't really care about the quality of it. They just want as much as possible to stack in a large pile. Those are the kind of people that will look at this and go, yeah, that's fine for me. I'm happy with that. And at the right price, if you're buying it, it makes no difference. If you're buying low and then you're selling low at the other end, great. You've not lost anything. You're not losing potentially. But if you've spent 35, 40 pounds on a brand new coin from the Royal Mint and it comes like this, you're going to be in for a bit of a shock when you try and sell it and you realise it's awful. I mean, would you buy this for 35 pounds new from the Royal Mint? No, of course you wouldn't. It's absolutely awful. So think a bit about it like that. So if you're not getting coins, then you can get bars. I've got a bar out here just to say you can get bars of silver. You can just get those nice, lumpy, beautiful chunks of silver and be done with it. Like with hand-poured silver as well. Little plug for my own little channel bars. We've got, I think, 10 or 11 left on the website right now. So go and check them out. There's a link in the description box below to our website. But these, you'll never get milk spots on these. You might get the odd bit of toning over time, which is natural on all silver, but just a bit of polish, and you're all fine once again. But things like this, absolutely great if you want to just enjoy your silver, not worry about the the quality of it. It's made to be touched and handled, and that's just one of the beautiful things about having bars of silver. Now, in terms of consumer rights, when you're buying things like poured silver, you actually have more consumer rights on that kind of thing than you would on the sort of bullion coins. Now, bullion coins that have prices that are sort of fluctuating across different markets, you do actually have good consumer rights against things like this when I sell them anyway. Now, if you're just buying them from Joe Blogs on the internet, you don't have consumer rights if you're buying from a third party, you basically have very limited consumer rights in that when you've paid for something, you should be able to get it. But if they can prove that you've got it, then you're kind of stuck. There's no right of return. There's no things like that. So just be very aware of that when you're buying. You've got to make sure that what you're buying is what it is, and the quality is good when you get it, or at least the quality is good when you see what you're buying, and then you can make that decision. The other option, of course, is you buy gold. Gold, unfortunately, is just superior in every single way to silver. It doesn't milk spot. It does have sometimes these things called copper spots on them. I haven't got a coin in with copper spots yet, but rare occasions you get these little red spots on some of the Britannias and various other coins from around the world, and that's to do with residue on the face of the dies that are used to strike the coins, and then those spots just oxidize over time. But yeah, you don't have as many consumer rights as you might think, and it's important to remember that. If you buy, for example, a bunch of silver with a credit card or debit card, you will have more enhanced protection as a buyer. You always will. But ultimately, if you try and do a chargeback, for example, so let's do the sort of thought experiment here. If you bought this coin with a credit or debit card from a big bullion dealer, you got it and it was awful quality, and you wrote them an email and said, this is really bad pursuant to my consumer rights. I'd like to have a replacement. And they go, I'm really sorry, but you don't actually have that right. It's a bullion coin, and it's our discretion. And unfortunately, we can't, in summary, we basically can't, because it's not affordable, practical for them to do so, and rightly so. Now, if you then go to your bank and say, I'm doing a chargeback on my credit card now because they've refused to return and replace this, the credit card company is going to side with the dealer, I'm afraid. The long and short of it is you are not going to be the one that wins that, because the consumer rights are very clear on this, and unfortunately, you're just stuck with a bad coin. So the old adage of, working out what you can get in terms of the sort of issues that are happening, you've got to weigh up the balance of it. If you're going to be really combative with these companies, then there's just really no point, unfortunately. You need to make a better purchase decision at the start of the journey rather than at the end. So I've had my fair few coins come in that are awful quality, and most of them, quite frankly, have been the raw mint coins of late. I will just briefly talk on a bit of a subject of this. So for those that may or may not remember, about a year and a bit ago, we found a whole bunch of coins from the raw mint that had the effigy the wrong way up. So there were some King Charles coins that had the head that was rotated through 90 degrees. This one is not one of those error coins. And at that time, I had contacted the raw mint. I was still in their good books, and they were in my good books. And I contacted them and said, this is really interesting. Can I come up and talk about it? And they agreed to it. And we went and saw the production line to see how it might have happened in the first place. And I was actually really quite shocked by the production line. I never really did a full video on it. At the time, I was trying to be sort of quite political and respectful of the raw mint, because they were trying really hard. And but honestly, their production line was really not very impressive at all. It was one machine making Britannias, and literally the blanks would go in, they would be stamped, and the coin would then roll down a little tray. It would bounce into and on top of other coins that were lying down in this conveyor belt, and then those coins would be rolling and bumping all over each other along the way to a sort of four-way split where those coins would be made into 4 different rows, and then a robotic arm would come over and suction cup, pick up the coins, put them in the tubes, and off it goes to a monster box seal, done, off it goes. There was no quality control, and I saw coins bouncing on top of each other, and I'm like, is that normal? And they're like, yeah, that's normal. Like, right, but they're damaging each other, and it's just like, that's how we make them. Oh, right, okay, well, I mean, it is what it is, I guess. You can't really, can't really say otherwise. But anyway, the point is that the raw mint's quality control is famously crap. It's famously awful. Hopefully one day they'll sort it out and we'll not have all of these ghastly milk spots on coins. But unfortunately, if you get them, you're stuck with them. And you need to think long and hard about maybe buying new, for example. So there we go. My thoughts on consumer rights as it relates to bullion. Let me know your thoughts on this subject, your experiences. Have you had any situations that have been less than great? Have you had lots of milky coins? What have been the reactions from the dealers? I have heard stories of dealers doing returns and replacements. That is a good thing when that happens, but it's not always likely to happen, unfortunately. So let me know down in the comments. If you have watched to this point in the video and you're not subscribed to my channel, for goodness sake, just hit that subscribe button. And let me know your thoughts on, well, hang on, I've done that bit and do my outro more and more. Subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Thank you to the Backyard Bullion Ramblers. There we go. I've got into the mojo again. And a huge shout out to the Cool Kids Club members. You are absolutely extra special cool. Thanks all. We'll see you on the next video. As always, please make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.